Good morning. We are live. It is actually 9:01. I guess I started a minute late on the countdown this morning. Alex and Cole with you this morning on the Going Broadway podcast. Cole, what's happening?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever.
We got a lot to talk about this morning.
Yes, we do.
We got some draft coverage. We got some title change coverage. We got a new segment we're going to debut this morning, so I'm really excited to go through all of that. My mic seems really loud. Let me fix that. Hopefully that's a little better. Who do we got on here this morning? James, Sean, Joey, Brian, Travis, Joseph, Trenton, Steven. Good morning, everybody. As always, if this is your first time checking out the Going Broadway podcast, let us know. We'd like to give you a proper shout out. As always, we thank everyone for checking us out each and every week, each and every Wednesday. Revolution Ricky, good morning. Tell you what, let's just jump right in. So our top headlines of the week. I think I said top headlines of the day. I don't know why. We had quite the dog collar match this past Wednesday on Dynamite. We have a new TNT champion, and I'm kind of surprised by the result. I'm kind of not. It makes sense that they put the TNT belt on Brody Lee while Cody did his little game show host thing. I'm okay with the title change. I'm okay with how they're booking it. No real complaints. The match was pretty good. It did have a couple of awkward spots, but at the same time, you can't really rehearse a dog collar match because the collar is going to get in the way depending on how you pull off a move. What were your thoughts on the match?
I actually thought this was the highlight of the night. I felt like AEW as a whole that night was actually pretty sloppy. And
I agree.
And a lot of the matches had a lot of sloppy spots. So I felt like this match saved the night in a sense. And I'm actually glad there was a title change, because that's what I felt like made AEW seem like they didn't really miss a beat, even though they were missing a lot of beats this past Wednesday night, in my opinion. So I thought the match was good. I actually, and I don't even like to mention this dude's name, but Jim Cornette did a review of this match. And one of the things that he brought up about this match, though, I did agree with, shockingly, is that there was really no basis to a dog collar match. It just got brought up. You know, it just was like out of the blue, we're going to do a dog collar match. And the booking on it was not very good. The storytelling leading up to this match was not very good. It was just like, dog collar match. So I thought that Cody and Brody did a good job of bringing this match to life. But I felt like this match could have been a little bit more, even more epic had it had a better build up.
I can agree with that, and it's rare that I can agree with anything Jim Cornette says. But at the same time, though, I mean, I don't mind that there wasn't a huge build to the fact that it was a dog collar match. It just, AEW is good at giving us some kind of an intrigue factor on a week by week basis, even if it's not a long term booking plan. Again, I see Cornette's perspective, and I actually can't agree with it to an extent. But at the same time, that's what AEW does. They like to pull the rabbit out of a hat on any given week and say, next week we're having a dog collar match. Oh, all right, cool.
Right.
But I agree. The whole Dynamite program was rather lackluster, which is really disappointing because it was Jericho's 30th year in the business celebration. Side note, the Judas effect he pulled on the clown. You remember? Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that looked brutal.
I'm glad that one looked good, because the one he hit on Luther was terrible.
Yeah, that match was just...
That match shouldn't have happened.
No. Jericho should not have even wrestled. And I hesitated to say that, but I'm going to stick by it. And I like Jericho. I mean, I've even said this before. He's on my Mount Rushmore. That's an unpopular opinion, which we'll bring that segment back in a week or two. That's my unpopular opinion of the day, week, year, whatever. But Jericho's on my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, but he just the celebration should not have involved him excuse me, getting in the ring.
Right.
I'm not saying he still can't wrestle, But at the same time, okay, I'll rephrase it like this. If Jericho is going to wrestle on his 30th year anniversary, it shouldn't be against Serpentico and Luther. No offense to those guys, and from a historical standpoint, I understand why Jericho did it. But at the same time, I know he's got history with Luther, but at the same time, people don't want to see that. People want to see, if Jericho is celebrating his 30th year in the business, they want to see maybe a Jericho and Omega part. What would that be, part 4? I think they've wrestled 3 other times. 1, 2, maybe part 3. I don't recall. Or a Jericho against a bigger name. That could have been a good. I know it wouldn't fit for storyline purposes, but that would have been a good Jericho versus Cody match, part 2, because they wrestled at a prior pay-per-view. That's where Cody got his shiner, which he still has a scar from to this day. I'm just trying to think of other names. Jericho against.
I don't even know if it had to be a bigger name, just a better name. And the reason why I said that is it's not like Luther's putting on 5-star matches. It's not like Serpentico is putting on 5-star matches. These guys are on your dark show 90% of the time.
If they even make it to that.
And then you put him in the main event with Chris Jericho, who, let's be real, has been wrestling in the business for 30 years. His best matches are probably behind him, which means that he needs to be in the ring with guys who can kind of help carry the match a little bit. I don't say he needs to be carried, but they need to help hit certain spots.
Well, if you put Jericho in the ring with somebody, Jericho can call the spots, but the other guy can help actually, from a execution standpoint, help carry the match.
Right.
So,
and there just wasn't that.
Not at all.
And then you also have Jake Hager in the match, which didn't really help either. I almost felt like you should have done Les Sex Gods and had Sammy in there at least, because Sammy at least could have sold some things a little bit better, I think. So, yeah, I thought the dog collar match saved the night for sure.
I agree. And again, back to the TNT title change. I'm okay with how they went about it. I'm okay with the booking. I've read on social media that, excuse me, that they feel like that this decelerates Dark Order's push. I don't believe that at all. And here's why I say that. You guys, if you watch AEW Dynamite, if you watch AEW Dark, even if you don't watch AEW Dark, if you watch AEW Dynamite, but that's the only AEW sanctioned, for lack of a better word, or related program that you watch, you need to watch Being the Elite, because if you watch that, you will understand kind of how Dark Order is as it relates to AEW as a whole. So I don't feel like it damages Brody Lee's push, or maybe push isn't the right word, but just he, as well as Dark Order's just overall status in AEW. I don't feel like it damages it at all. I'm intrigued about the AEW TNT title match tonight. Cody against Orange Cassidy. I don't think they're going to do a title change here. However, it's an interesting match, and we'll actually get to our AEW and NXT. We'll do a short preview later in the show as far as what's happening later tonight. What else do we have to talk about? Let's see here. Why don't we bring up... So, Finn Balor won the NXT title a couple weeks ago. Actually, it's been about a month ago. And he had an insane match with Kyle O'Reilly, but as the last couple of weeks have played out, it's been revealed that he's got a broken jaw. And the latest update I read is that a surgery from a broken jaw can take up to 6 weeks to heal. But there's not been any announcement regarding the NXT title, if he's going to vacate it, if they're just going to keep it on him and just have him do, just keep him on TV and have him do interviews and segments or whatnot. I'll kind of let you take the floor on your opinion first before I give mine. So what's your overall take on this situation? Do you think they're going to keep the belt on him? What do you think makes the most sense?
You can't afford to vacate the title. You can't. You can't even afford to take it off of him. I would say this. If it's only 6 weeks, then keep it on him.
Agreed.
If it's like 6 to 8 months, now you have to, because you just can't not have the main title. But if we're only talking 6 weeks, you don't really do pay-per-views like the rest of the brand or rest of the company every 4 weeks or 3 weeks, really. You have time to continue to build a storyline with somebody without necessarily having them in the ring together. I mean, they pretty much put Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor together without them ever even really getting in the ring or having a live segment at all. Mm-hmm. It was all done kind of via video packages and someone winning a match and, all those things. So I don't think you can afford to vacate. You've already had Karrion Kross win it and vacate it then. You've had more recently in the past couple of years, you've had Tommaso Ciampa win it and vacate it over the year, over the past year and a half. So you just got a lot of guys who keep winning it, but then getting hurt. And so I just don't think you can afford to vacate it. I don't think that the NXT roster right now is injury bug and maybe even COVID bug in a sense. You got a lot of guys who just are a lot of the roster who's just not capable of holding the belt right now. And whether it be they have not built the proper storyline to even get them into a title picture. I mean, like, name 8 guys who are title picture ready in NXT.
You can't.
Maybe 5.
Yeah.
Maybe
at
5.
the most.
And that's pushing it. And that's what I'm saying is you got to build some. Right now, NXT needs to be building some other guys just in case, because we need them to be ready for such a time as this, in a sense, where the injury bug hits, COVID bug hits, whatever, and now you ain't got nobody to fight for the title.
Well, and you've said on a prior podcast, you said, given the circumstances of the pandemic, it's next man up at any given time. So I agree. While Raw and SmackDown have that luxury of having an expanded, I'll use that word. I was going to say a more deep roster, but I wouldn't even say that. I would just call it an expanded roster, because obviously, given the draft, they have the capability of just switching guys on a dime, draft or no draft, actually.
Trades,
But NXT, you need to build guys. I mean, and maybe that's what they were trying to do with this. Why is his name escaping me already? The dude that attacked Adam Cole. Why is his name? The rugby player. I can't think of his name right now
because we don't care about him.
Well, exactly. That's a point I'm trying to make, is that
I forget his name.
We forgot his name already. So it's like they're trying to build guys, which I can respect and maybe get behind if they do it right. But they're doing it with the wrong guys. They're bringing guys back or bringing guys into the fold that it's like, well, they have a good look. Doesn't matter how long they've been on TV. We're just going to throw them in. No, like, build guys. Like, I mean, Kyle O'Reilly, what are you doing with him? Like, you need to continue to push his singles momentum after that match. You need to, you may need, if you're WWE, if you're an NXT creative, you might have to pull an audible and just say, we need to expand our singles roster. So, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, we need to focus you guys. Maybe not take the focus off any kind of like a tag team or tag title pursuit, but put just as much focus on possible singles runs to help the brand, quite frankly. I mean, besides those guys, and I know someone asked this earlier. Joey asked, can someone tell why Adam Cole or Velveteen Dream has not been called up to the main roster? Right now, I selfishly would love Adam Cole to be on the main roster, but they kind of need him in NXT right now. Now I don't.
Side note: Ridge Holland.
Ridge Holland, that's right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would.
It was bothering me that I couldn't.
No, that's fine. I wouldn't have thought of his name either. But they kind of need Adam Cole on the NXT roster at the moment. I mean, as far as Velveteen Dream goes, I'm not even going to get on that soapbox. I've made my opinion perfectly clear that he should not even have a job at this point. That's all I'm going to say. But
the issue is Adam Cole can't. You can't put Adam Cole back in the main card title picture though, because he held the belt for so long. putting him right back in the picture with Finn Balor after Finn Balor literally just beat him. He literally can't go there, but do you demote Adam Cole down to a North American title run again? Do you maybe have Adam Cole run a tag title run with Bobby Fish or Roderick? I just don't think so. I think Adam Cole, in my opinion, still needs to be moved on and moved up, whether it's by himself or not. What they need to do is take guys off Raw and SmackDown that you're not using right anyways, that you're not using correctly anyways, and bring them back to NXT like you did Finn Balor and allow them to help kind of build the roster back up.
So let's talk about that for a second. If we were to bring guys from Raw or SmackDown, put them back to NXT, who would you pick? Let's pick. We'll each pick 3, just off the top of our heads.
Okay,
they can be from Raw or SmackDown. And we don't necessarily even have to give reasons. We're just going to kind of play a little bit of fantasy booking right now.
Well, okay, so I am going to be real for just a second.
And this can be male or female.
Let's cut Retribution out. Let's bring Dominik Dijakovic back.
Okay.
Reason why I say Dominik Dijakovic is that I don't think he was built to begin with to go to the main roster. I think he was just now starting to get into a groove on NXT. You bring Dominik Dijakovic back down, allow him to help. He could have, at this point in time, been in that main card picture.
Okay.
With the way the roster currently is. I say bring Mia Yim back down. Reason why is Mia Yim should be NXT Women's Champion next. Io Shirai, I'm not against her being champion, but who are you going to make Women's Champion after her? Now, Ember Moon, I see it, but that's a whole nother story. I think Ember Moon should have went to the main roster. So I think Mia Yim should have stayed down. As far as one more guy, I'm trying to think of an established name.
See, I got my established name. That was what I first thought of.
For me, I think it would probably be Ricochet and bring Ricochet down. He never won the NXT championship. He only won the North American title and held it for a very short amount of time before he was called back up or called up, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So I would probably say Ricochet, have him come down, run the NXT roster, have some good matches with Finn Balor, maybe have him win the title, the NXT title, and have an NXT title run.
Okay, so my established guy was Ricochet as well. I'm actually having trouble thinking of 2 others because it, from a creative standpoint, I mean, like you said with your Dijakovic and Mia Yim, you'd have to throw Retribution out, or maybe you wouldn't. Did you like that tease there? Because we all know it's Dijakovic and Mia Yim, but who's to say you can't just pick another guy and another female and just, dress them up, put them in the same costume, whatever, as Dijakovic and Mia Yim, color the female's hair, whatever, get somebody with their same build and just put them in those spots, and then you've got Dijakovic and Mia Yim back on NXT. You could do that. However, so Ricochet, I agree. I think he could go to NXT. You could put him in your NXT title picture. Puts him back to a point of credibility within the company, within the world of wrestling. Period. I'm gonna leave Retribution alone. I'm gonna try to think of 2 others real quick. Just like off the top of my head. Did you say Ember Moon?
So I actually said I want Ember Moon on the main roster.
Okay,
Ember Moon's
okay.
technically on NXT, so
Well, right. That's why I was asking, because I'm trying to think of what you said, but also come up with my thoughts at the same time.
I'm just scanning the comments here. I actually like what Trenton says here. Send Dolph Ziggler to NXT. I mean, if anybody can get somebody over, it's Dolph Ziggler. Could you imagine a Dolph Ziggler versus Finn Balor match?
I think have they not had a match on the main roster before?
Probably in the mid card, but
yeah.
Give those guys an hour.
Let me see. I'm gonna look at something real quick. Give me
Bobby Roode.
No, because what I'm looking at is putting somebody. So I've got Ricochet. I want to look at a female that never held the NXT title, whether she's been in NXT before or not. So what about Lacey Evans?
Lacey Evans would be the one for sure.
So
Bianca Belair would also be one.
See, I feel like I go hot and cold on her. It's like, and that's not her fault. I think that's just WWE booking. It's just like, whenever she first debuted, I wasn't really into it or getting it, and then I kind of like, okay, I can get behind this, and then it's just back to like, what are you doing with her, if anything? I mean, I know, and we'll talk about the draft in a little while, but I just feel like she needs to be in a more prominent role.
Right. But
it's like when she's not, whenever they just kind of got her floundering in the mid card or just not on TV at all, I'm just like, I don't know. So let's see, Ricochet, Lacey Evans. If I pick a third,
what about Tucker?
No.
They just split them up.
This is a tough one. I'd almost, if I'm going from my mentality of being able to put someone in the NXT title picture that's never held the title, and I know this won't happen because like he literally just got brought to SmackDown, Matt Riddle.
Ooh, Matt Riddle. Yeah, they have high hopes for him. I almost could even say Lars Sullivan. He never won the title. They're really high on him. So you could bring him back over to NXT.
I don't think Lars Sullivan should have a job either, but that's neither here nor there. Just 1 second. Lost the...
Oh, he unplugged.
That's one bad thing about these headphones is that if you make a wrong move, they will come unplugged.
Would be cool to see Rowan return to NXT.
Ooh.
That's an interesting take. Natty would be a good move down. I actually agree with that. Natalya would be someone you could bring back to NXT, or not bring back, bring to NXT, bring some veteran status. Lacey Evans would be perfect for NXT. Some people saying that UE can't go to Raw or SmackDown. SmackDown will bury them.
Well, as we go through this, guys, please continue to share just your take on whatever we're talking about, especially with our next topic. So I'll tell you what, let's just get right into the draft and discuss the picks. And some of these picks we'll look into more detail. Some of them we'll just kind of more or less skim over. Now, looking at it from a more high level, there weren't really too many surprises in this. I mean, because some of the predictions we made happened, and it's. I don't know. I think the biggest thing coming out of it was the tag title picture, but literally they just switched belts up, splitting up New Day. That was kind of a big deal. But I'll tell you what. Let's go to day one. So back on Friday night SmackDown, we had again, no surprise. I know you said you heard from somebody that they were going to try to put the Universal and WWE champion on the same brand.
Right.
Thank goodness it did not happen.
Yeah.
But,
very good.
Drew McIntyre stays on Raw. Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown. We've got Asuka staying on Raw. Then we got Seth Rollins going to SmackDown. So at first I'm just like, okay, cool. They're separating him from the whole Mysterio storyline. Well, so much for that. We've got Hurt Business staying on Raw. That was round one. Then round two, and I predicted this one, AJ Styles is going to Raw, which I like. I think a change of scenery will be good for him on screen as well as behind the scenes, because his son plays football and his games are on Friday nights. So again, from a personal standpoint, it'll benefit him be able to see his son play football. So
let's not mention he's on the brand where he actually could be WWE champion.
Right. We've got Sasha Banks staying on SmackDown.
Interesting about that pick, though. They picked Sasha Banks before Bayley.
That's a great observation.
I thought this was interesting because in the first round, once I saw the first round was kind of going, I was like, okay, they pick Drew McIntyre, they pick Roman Reigns. you establish your champions. Oh, they pick Asuka.
They're gonna.
I was like, surely they're gonna pick Bayley. To be, they need their women's champion. They pick Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. That's a good observation
because they only made certain people eligible each night for the draft. I don't know if Bayley was eligible on SmackDown for that draft, but I thought it was interesting that Asuka, Roman Reigns, and Drew McIntyre were eligible, but your SmackDown Women's Champion wasn't. I think that's foreshadowing of what is to come.
I mean, possibly Bayley didn't even go till day 2.
Day 2, and like was it the first round or
first round?
First
yeah.
round. Okay.
Let's see. So we got Naomi going over to Raw, which is interesting because there was this story about WWE's wanting to keep real life couples together, but it's looking like, from what I'm reading, that once Jimmy Uso, which is her husband, they are married, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. Once Jimmy Uso returns, that everything I'm reading is that they're going to keep him on SmackDown. So to be determined there. Now with what they're doing with what they're doing, there we go, with Jey Uso and his storyline, they might split them up. Who knows? I mean, Jey Uso seems to be doing okay as a single with his singles run.
He'd be good in the mid card.
Another unpopular opinion, I'm not buying. Well, I think that would be more believable. I was about to say I'm not buying Jey Uso as a singles competitor, but maybe it's just because they threw him right into the Universal title picture that could play a factor. But I mean, we'll see. We've got Bianca Belair going to SmackDown. This was a surprise that she went this early.
Not really for me, because I believe that they want to use her. I really feel like the problem is that, and you can see this on Raw for sure. They are waiting for Charlotte Flair to return. They're waiting for big names to return for Raw to actually put on some kind of big women's match. Mm-hmm. Because you're giving me Zelina Vega in the women's title picture. You're giving me Natalya now, and we'll talk about this later. You're giving me Lana in the women's title picture. You're giving me all these names that I'm just like, what? And you're sitting Bianca Belair on the sideline. You're sitting Lacey Evans, and I know some of them are on SmackDown, but it hasn't stopped you from letting somebody else challenge before.
Right.
And you have all these women's names who are just sitting on the sideline waiting for an opportunity, and you're putting these non-built up Mickie James. I'm like, you're putting all these non-built up women wrestlers in title matches with Asuka and expecting me to be like, yeah, they're gonna win. No way. Yeah. So a lot of it to me is that they want to use Bianca, but they didn't want to put her up against Asuka because they didn't want her to beat Asuka. Mm-hmm. So then you kill any push that you put Bianca in. Now you can go, because I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out here now. Sasha Banks is winning the women's championship at Hell in a Cell.
She better.
Sasha Banks, hear me now. Sasha Banks is winning the women's championship at Hell in a Cell. And you are going to see Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, and it will probably be one of the best women matches of this year.
Mic drop.
You heard it here first.
Let's see. We've got the most pointless pick in the draft, in my opinion, with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler staying on Raw. I mean,
I see what you're saying, but there are way more pointless picks than that.
Well, to this point is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry. I should have prefaced by saying to this point.
Yes, I agree with that.
So now we've got, let's see. We got Ricochet, which we'll talk about in more detail in a few minutes, staying on Raw. Let's see, my computer. There we go. Okay, so Jey Uso on SmackDown. Staying on SmackDown, no surprise. Mandy Rose staying on Raw. Then we've got Rey and Dominic Mysterio going to SmackDown. Oh, happy day.
Isn't it funny? I told you that I thought I saw Dominic Mysterio going there, and that I heard the rumor that Seth Rollins was going there. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. We have another segment coming up that is a huge part of that segment for me. So I'm going to say my thoughts on that.
And then I like this pick. We've got Miz and Morrison going to Raw.
That's a great switch.
Now, I picked Morrison to go, but not Miz. But it does kind of make sense because with Miz and Maurice and their show,
Having them on the USA Network,
Right.
makes
Ms.
sense.
Ms. and Mrs. is just all it's called, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ms. and Mrs.
I know that that's making a return for whatever season they're on. So it makes sense because you want to have your talent on the same network that
Their other
they're-
shows.
Right.
Here's
So
the thing about that is I am excited for a New Day Miz and Morrison program. I'm excited for.
I'm surprised they didn't do it on SmackDown either.
Well, here's the thing: half of them have been gone for a while. They took Kofi,
Right.
and
But prior to their
Right.
injury is what I meant.
I was kind of looking forward at first to a Street Profits Miz and Morrison storyline. Obviously, they switched brands, but I was really looking forward to that. So now it's kind of like, we might get that. The other thing that intrigues me is if and when the Viking Raiders come back, if they come back to Raw, I would like to see them versus the New Day.
I think they're going to be gone for a long time if they come back, period. I mean, one of them with wasn't it his neck? Or
What's his name? The bigger one that the what do they call him? Not the cruiserweight. He's like 350 pounds. He's always doing the cartwheels, and he's the one that dives through the middle rope. But they always consider him like a high flyer. I forget the nickname they gave him. It's gonna bug me.
are you talking with Viking Raiders?
Yeah,
Ivar and
Ivar is the one that does it, but they call it. And it started in NXT, and they brought it up into Raw. Anytime he does like the cartwheel out of the way, or does some kind of fast-paced move, they call him some makeshift name off a cruiserweight name.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It just bothered me because
I thought you were just trying to think of Ivar.
No, I just laugh every single time that I hear it. But he hurt his neck, I think, on the way out of that because he dove through the middle rope.
Right. Let's kind of breeze through rounds 4 and 5. So we mentioned New Day already. New Day goes to Raw.
Well, 2 of them.
Well, right. So Xavier Woods and Kofi go to Raw, but then and this was right after they won the SmackDown tag titles.
Yeah.
So to kind of put that in context, but then they're like, well, you didn't mention Big E, and that's because Big E is staying on SmackDown. So they split them up, which, by the way, the Big E Sheamus match that opened SmackDown, that was fantastic. That was one of the best televised matches outside of NXT that they've had all year. So we've got Dana Brooke. Was she on SmackDown? I don't recall.
So Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose actually had just gotten traded to Raw.
That's right.
And
Okay,
then
so
they
they're already
just
there.
kept them on Raw.
Okay, so Dana Brooke stays on Raw. Otis stays on SmackDown. Angel Garza stays on Raw. Humberto Carrillo I don't recall. Was he already on Raw?
Yep.
Okay, he stays on Raw. Murphy goes to SmackDown, so you got to anyway.
The Love Saga.
Drew Gulak, out of nowhere, the pick out of nowhere. Whenever you've got Andrade and
You got to remember, though, not all of them were eligible Friday night. So they're picking based off of 30 stars.
well, I thought Andrade was available.
I don't think so.
Maybe not. Okay. Well, anyway, Drew Gulak goes to Raw. I think he was on SmackDown, was he not?
He was,
Okay.
but they had been using him in the 24/7
Right.
picture anyways.
Kalisto stays on SmackDown. No, wait. Lucha House Party, were they on SmackDown?
SmackDown,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought. Just having brain lapses left and right. And then Tucker goes to Raw, so they split up Heavy Machinery. That concludes day 1. So before we get to day 2, I want to read some of your guys' comments. Let's see. Scrolling back up a little bit. Jeffrey Capo. High on Matt Riddle. Is that a 420 joke? LOL. I don't know which one of us said that, but touche, Jeffrey Capo. Let's see. Trent says Lacey Evans would be perfect for NXT. Back to the conversation we were having earlier. Ricky says he also does not like Lars Sullivan. Fear the Beard says poor Billy Kay. We'll get to that in a little while. Ricky says, what draft? They're basically staying put where they have been. For the most part, they did play it safe with this draft, unfortunately. Trenton says, Big E is getting a title shot soon, just saying. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets a title shot, but he's not going to be winning the belt anytime soon.
I almost would rather him get a mid-card shot because at least he would win the belt.
Matthew says, I kind of wish the draft was the end to Rollins and Mysterio feud, not just switch brands exactly. Fear the Beard says he thinks Nakamura should have went to Raw and D-Bry. And then it just
Daniel
ends.
Bryan.
Right. I just trying to interpret the comment. Matthew says, I heard AJ switched to get away from Heyman again. I'm reading that feud's been long dead, that there's not any kind of heat with him anymore.
AJ's a professional. I really see him explaining why he's frustrated or upset, but then moving on.
Right. Joey says, when will Vince put the championship belt on Keith Lee? And I came across someone saying Naomi becoming a member of the Hurt Business.
We had talked about that.
We did.
Remember, we had talked about, and we had talked about how it really doesn't make sense, and I hate to say it, but the whole group is black. And trying to put, and we had talked about maybe Shayna Baszler, it just didn't really fit. I think Naomi is a perfect fit.
Agreed.
For that group.
And I like that. I mean, that's the first time I've seen that. So
yeah, I think especially she actually was pretty dope in that, what did they call it? Team Bad. She was the leader of that Team Bad. She actually sold a heel role pretty well during that. I think she would be a really good fit, and it would actually help towards building something with Retribution because they have girls that aren't doing anything. Mm-hmm. So her feuding with a Mia Yim or a Mercedes, that intrigues me a lot.
I do like that. Joey, let me know where you read that. I'd be intrigued to hear what your source
if you
is.
Came up with it yourself. Like that's really dope.
Joey, if you came up with that on your own, call WWE now. That's a great. I like that pairing. Fear the Beard says Lars and Rowan could be a tag team. No.
Lars and Rowan? No, I don't like that.
Joey says finally the boss wins. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, to me, it's like, what's the payoff if you don't have Sasha winning at Hell in a Cell? Like, what are you going to save it for? Survivor Series? Why would you do that?
Survivor
What's the point?
Series is going to have a lot of Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. You don't have room for that match.
I mean, that feud cannot carry to WrestleMania if that's what they're trying to do. There's
they could
way.
bring the feud back. They could take Bayley off TV for a little while and bring her back to challenge again at Mania. But you can't. Yeah, I agree. This is the match we've been waiting for, and this is the payoff we've been waiting for.
Let's see. Ricky says, I'm not a big Sasha Banks fan, but I agree she needs to be the SmackDown Women's Champion.
And
then we've got a few people mentioning Ivar, which I was like them. I thought that's what you're trying to.
I was trying to remember the little nickname they've given him, but I just can't. Still can't. Think of it.
All right, let's go to day 2, and we're gonna breeze through this one a little more because
Day 2 was not exciting at all.
Day 2 was not exciting, and it went longer because Raw is longer. So, let's see. First pick was the Fiend Bray Wyatt going over to Raw, and
which I said was going to happen.
Right. So it wasn't a huge shocker. Finally, SmackDown selects their women's champion, Bayley, to stay on SmackDown. Randy Orton stays on Raw. Street Profits go to SmackDown. And
I do like that.
I do too. And another unpopular opinion, at least from what I've read on social media, I'm okay with just simply switching the belts.
It makes sense.
I mean, from the standpoint of people like, well, it ruins the lineage. Just like, no, it doesn't. I mean,
what lineage?
from the standpoint of, if you look at the history of WWF/WWE and their tag team championships, certain times you've had one tag team title, certain times you've had two, and it's like, if you try to look at like a diagram or a hierarchy of a tag team title lineage within WWE, you're going to have all kinds of this going on anyway. So what difference does it make with them just switching the belts? I mean,
I wouldn't even have televised them switching the belts. I would have just had Street Profits show up Friday night with the blue belts on, and had New Day show up on Monday night with the red belts on, and had the announcer just say, "Oh, look at them sporting the red belts. We're so glad to have them here on Raw." Like, we almost made it too big of a deal of the switch of belts because it really isn't that big of a deal. They're both the champions.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the SmackDown tag titles. Why would they call them the SmackDown tag titles on Raw?
Exactly.
Why would you take the Raw belts to SmackDown and call them, oh, they're the Raw tag team champions on SmackDown? No, they're just, and they're the colors of the brand. So
Yeah.
it just makes sense to do it. I don't know why anybody would get hung up on that, but
is what you're trying to think of 305 Live?
yes. Who said it?
Fear the Beard.
Thank you. My goodness. I was like, man, what do they call them? 305 Live. I laugh every single time they say that because it's so funny, but it is so true.
But yeah, just as far as the switching of the belts, to me, it's like I actually responded to someone on social media that didn't agree with it. My response to them was, what would you have had them do? I mean, what options do they have? Like, you cannot, like you said, you cannot have your SmackDown tag team champions on Raw. You can't have your Raw tag team champions on SmackDown. So I'm just like, if WWE isn't going to be lazy, do you want them to like re-leather the belts and say, here are your Raw tag team champions, here are your SmackDown tag team champions, and maybe the Raw tag belts maybe they're both like black straps, but have them look different in some way. I don't really know. Do you change the belt
I love the
appearance?
straps. I just think it made sense to switch. I don't know how else to explain it to somebody. I think at that point they're just a narc, or, whatever you want to call it, a mark, who are just sitting there being extra about every little decision WWE makes. This was a perfect decision by WWE. The blue belt should be on the blue brand. The red belt should be on the red band. If you're going to move to SmackDown and be the tag champions, you are the SmackDown tag champions. You can't be the Raw tag champions.
Thomas says, yeah, the belt exchange was pointless. I don't know if you're agreeing or disagreeing with us, but I think it only made sense to just trade the belts because otherwise...
I think he means the televised exchange.
Oh,
was
yeah.
pointless.
Yeah, agreed.
Like I said, just have them show up with the new belts.
Yeah, exactly.
On each show. Like, we don't have to explain it. It makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And then, to me, it's like, to anyone on social media that said it was pointless, I don't know if their expectation was to debut new belts. WWE isn't going to do that. Now, I read a while back that there was an idea to have a unified tag champions, or not even a unified tag champions, just one WWE tag champions that would be
cross-brand.
Well, like what the WWE Women's Tag Champions are doing.
Right.
They can actually go across all three brands.
Yeah, he was talking about the televised.
Right. But from the standpoint of maybe having one set of tag champions across both Raw and SmackDown, there was a rumor that they have the belts ready for that whenever they pull the trigger on it. But they're not going to create new belts just for a brand switch. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with Thomas. It could, even having it on TV didn't need to happen. They could have just shown up on, show up on SmackDown on Friday, Street Profits with the blue belts, New Day next Monday with the red belt, and they could have just been, it could have been fine.
Joey said he saw in an article that MVP was pushing for it for Naomi.
Oh, okay. I'd be all over it. All right, let's kind of breeze through these a little bit just due to time. Charlotte Flair to Raw, which
Pointless pick.
For now.
You literally could just had her show up to whatever brand you want her on when she makes her return.
You could have.
Announcing what brand she's on to me was stupid. You could. There's
I
other
can
picks
see
we
that.
could have made that would have been shockers than having Charlotte Flair announced.
Okay. So Braun Strowman, round 2. Braun Strowman technically goes from SmackDown to Raw, but he's been on Raw Underground previously, so...
Fought on Raw last week.
Yeah. Daniel Bryan stays on SmackDown. Matt Riddle goes to Raw. KO, Kevin Owens, stays on SmackDown. Jeff Hardy goes to Raw as well. I'm
Kevin
intrigued.
Owens actually goes to SmackDown.
What's that?
Kevin Owens is on Raw.
Goes to SmackDown, I'm sorry. And I'm intrigued if Jeff Hardy and Matt Riddle keep their tag team going, because Matt Riddle is pushing for Hardy Bros.
Matt and Jeff, I get it.
Yeah, I don't really.
I don't think they go together, but
I don't either, and I kind of hope they don't. I just kind of think it's a little. It's not throwing shade at the Hardy Boys, but it's just like, just if you're gonna do a tag team, just use your names and just be done with it. Here, next pick. This is probably, well, in my opinion, this is the most pointless pick of the entire draft. It makes no sense whatsoever. Round 3, Raw selects Retribution? You're going to pick the guys, well, the group, I'm sorry, that have been destroying or been trying to wreak havoc on your brand, on your show for weeks at a time?
They signed them already. The draft makes sense because they're going to carry a storyline. I get drafting them. But my point is, like, to your point, we already are confused anyways. Why would you sign the guys who are destroying your brand? But
I think this furthers the confusion because it's like, okay, you signed them, but let's look at it from this perspective. Let's say in any given profession, I'll just kind of make this brief. In any given profession, if you sign somebody, but you basically can also say, like, okay, how do I want to phrase this? If you go to work for somebody, they sign you, they pay you, whatever, but they also get to tell you, you don't come to work today. Like, you don't have to come to work today, or I'm demanding that you don't come to work. So from that logistical standpoint, I can kind of get behind it, but then why would you still draft them? I mean, if you're already, I don't know. It's just confusing to me. I mean, really, multiple facets of this draft just confused the crap out of me. But anyway, Lars Sullivan, SmackDown. I'm literally going to go through these pretty quick. Stop me if you want to. Keith Lee, Raw. King Corbin, SmackDown. Alexa Bliss goes to Raw. I'm glad that they're keeping Alexa Bliss with The Fiend.
Yep.
Elias, Raw. Sami Zayn stays on SmackDown. Lacey Evans goes to Raw. Cesaro and Shinsuke, SmackDown. Sheamus goes to Raw. Round 5, Nikki Cross, Raw. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, SmackDown. R-Truth, Raw. Apollo Crews, SmackDown. Dabba-Kato, Raw.
Pointless.
That one was pretty pointless. Titus O'Neil, Raw.
Pointless.
Carmella, SmackDown. Peyton Royce, Raw. Aleister Black, SmackDown. Akira Tozawa, Raw. Round 7, mercifully ending the draft. Lana, Raw. Natalya, SmackDown. Riddick Moss, Raw.
Pointless.
Riot Squad, SmackDown. Who is Arturo Ruas?
Pointless. He is the guy who wears the gi, and they use him on Raw Underground. He's been on NXT a few times. They book him as like a.
That was a rhetorical question, by the way. I know who he is. I'm just trying to play into the fact.
My
that
bad.
It's like, no.
I could understand why you wouldn't know who he is, though, because that's how believable that question is who is he? I'm like, pointless.
Yeah.
And why are we drafting guys for Raw Underground anyways? Like, I was trying to figure that out the entire draft. As you draft Dabba-Kato, we know you are not putting Dabba-Kato out there in that ring. You haven't used him in NXT. You barely use him in Raw Underground. You're telling me that Dabba-Kato was a more important draft pick than half the guys on the roster?
You're telling me that Arturo Ruas was a more important pick than Andrade?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just why
Mickie James?
Raw Underground is meant to be like this sideshow on Raw. It's not meant to have a roster. It's meant to let anybody show up and fight. And you're telling me that we have to use draft picks for Dabba-Kato, Arturo, whatever his name is, Riddick Moss? When are you going to use it? Titus O'Neil? They only show up on Raw Underground. I haven't seen Titus O'Neil in a match since he slid under a ring at a Royal Rumble.
So...
I'm sorry. I'm mind blown that that's the picks that they decided Raw needed.
So yeah, by the end of this, the only two that were in the pools but not selected were Andrade and Mickie James. So to me, I'm just like, those are two pretty big names.
Mickie James could have went to SmackDown, or they could have put her anywhere, and I'm fine with that. They probably will.
Right.
Andrade, to me, unless you're storylining this to be like a comeback story to build him up, he's also another name you could take back down to NXT and use him there.
Oh,
Because apparently you don't know how to use him on the main roster.
this whole thing cracked me up. Not in draft pools. Just throw out some names: Becky Lynch, Jimmy Uso, Ivar, Sonya Deville, Edge, Jinder Mahal. Here's my disappointment. Samoa Joe was not in the draft pools. Mojo Rawley, Forgotten Sons, Bo Dallas, Big Show.
And his name is John Cena.
Oh,
You gotta admit, that was perfect placement
that was
there.
Perfect placement.
Yeah, so John Cena not in the draft pools. Bill Goldberg, Ronda Rousey, and The Undertaker were not in the draft pools.
Undertaker's retired, so.
All right, guys. I'll tell you what. Looking at the time, we got time for one more segment before we transition into something else. We're going to debut our pro-con segment. So what this means is that, actually, before I get to that, I wanted to read some comments, so pause on that. Let's see. Matthew says he loves Jeff Hardy going to Raw, thinks he'll be a good contender for the U.S. title. Fear the Beard says KO needs Universal title run. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
He does need one, but I agree.
Yeah, but as long as Roman Reigns is champion, I mean, we're not getting a new Universal champion until
Next year.
WrestleMania at the earliest. Errol Carrion says Retribution storyline is losing ground. We're just confused.
Never had ground.
Yeah, I agree. Andrew says, I'm glad Bray and Braun are away from Roman. Let them have their stuff on the red brand.
No, they don't need to rehash that storyline.
Well, no, I think he's just saying just keep them separate. But Braun's time is long gone at this point. Fear the Beard says Sheamus goes to Raw. I didn't see that Sheamus versus Drew, please. Okay. Andrew says they had a chance to develop new feuds and instead we'll get the same matches on just a different night. Basically, yeah.
We'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Jamie says, so underground guys were picked and NXT was left out stupid. Yeah, someone said that they missed a good opportunity leaving NXT out of the draft, and I agree with whoever said that. I think it was earlier in the comments. Andrew says main event needs wrestlers too. Mark, what's up? Hope you're doing well, buddy. Fear the Beard says AW needs a second show. Oh, wait. Sorry, I'm trying to stay on topic here. Fear the Beard said, yeah, Cena said he isn't done either. So that was a story I read last week, I think, that Cena mentioned that he's not officially done wrestling in WWE, so we'll see him back at some point. Fear the Beard brings up a good name. Kane. He was left out of the draft pools.
Kane is the mayor of his town. Does not have time to.
He was mayor when he was doing the whole authority storyline.
I don't think so.
You sure? Hold on.
He got elected after that storyline. He's been off TV pretty much since. They had him come back for a couple of appearances, one of which was the night where he was with R-Truth in the 24/7 title picture and came out and helped Daniel Bryan with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend character a little bit. But since he's been
okay, I guess
mayor, he's not been on TV.
It's only been 2 years, I guess. Okay. How long was the authority storyline around?
It was around for a while, but that was his last major run on TV.
Let's take a look here. Yeah, I guess that was, well.
I'm pretty sure he's considered himself retired.
Oh, I'm sure he has. I mean, he did have the one match, the one atrocious match with
DX. And,
that was awful. But anyway. Yeah, okay. I stand corrected. I could have sworn that carried over into him being mayor, but it just feels like he's been mayor for a long time.
He was running during that time.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, he was running.
Andrew says, does Saudi Arabia get a pick? Because that's for Kane and Goldberg and Taker going to be seen. Well, if they got a pick, they'd pick one of those three, I'm sure.
Saudi has rights to the Legends roster. Like, you know how the video games are? There's like a Legends roster. They have that one.
Exactly. All right. Back to our pro-con segment. So what we're going to do is Cole and I pick a topic.
that we disagree on.
Well, yeah, we pick a topic earlier in the week or the week prior as we're planning out the show, and we pick a topic that we have to disagree on, and we kind of just talk about it, go back and forth as far as who's pro, who's con, who's whatever. It'll make sense. It's kind of like a debate, but I promise we're each going to let the other one talk. Number one, and number two,
Lies. Sorry. I'm speaking. Just kidding.
We're not going to interrupt each other. Number two. Number three, we're going to keep it friendly. So the topic is if we think Ricochet would be better off in AEW. I suggested that. I think he would be better in AEW. Cole disagrees. Now, generally, as far as the debate goes, the pro goes first and then the con goes second. I'm okay with going first or second, so it's whichever you want to do.
So I would only say this, since it was technically something you brought up, I'm going to let you explain your argument for why he would be better on AEW, and then I will.
That's fine. So, Ricky says now you only get 2 minutes each, LOL.
Uninterrupted.
So basically my logic is McMahon's had a huge track record of just losing interest in guys and de-pushing and devaluing talent. He's doing it right now with Andrade, unfortunately. That's a topic for another time. But my mindset is, let's say he stays in WWE, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, NXT, whatever. I don't know, besides maybe Triple H, that he has a ton of backstage supporters. That's a legitimate comment. Like, I don't know. But I know that McMahon has lost interest in him, actually on a couple of different occasions. I'm surprised he actually got the win this past week on Raw. Now, I feel like if he stays in WWE, there's the danger that at any given time, no matter who you are, if you are not of the top 10% echelon of WWE guys, so your Drew McIntyres, your Roman Reigns, your Randy Ortons, your pretty much anybody that's been long tenured and has held a world championship, at least on a few occasions. Guys like, I'd even put AJ Styles in that. Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan. I'm just trying to think of anybody that's currently on the roster. There's more of them, but if you're not in that top 10%, give or take on the percentage, at any given time, I feel like Vince McMahon could just be like, I'm done with it. I'm even putting the Hurt Business in that. At any given time, I'm just like waiting for McMahon to be like, all right, I've had fun with Hurt Business, so I'll keep him around, but I'll just let him, get buried and whatever until the audience becomes done with him as well, and then we'll just take him off TV. I feel like AEW. So number one, you've got guys in AEW that have been that have worked with them in the past. So Ricochet has been on PWG, New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's had a relationship with the Bucks previously. I know he's been buddies with Kenny. So I feel like if Ricochet were to come to AEW, that he would at least be put in a prominent role. I'm not saying they would put any championship on him necessarily, but he would at least be featured on a weekly basis, and it would be, I feel like he would also gel better, I guess, in that environment in terms of, being able to approach Tony Khan with any kind of creative ideas, just being able to be himself, use anything in his moveset or his move arsenal that maybe he used in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and New Japan that he's not used in WWE because WWE doesn't want to they see him as an investment, so they're going to limit his moveset. So, Harold Carrion says Otis was in that 10%. I'm just reading some comments real quick, and then I'll give you the floor. I mean, I'm pretty much done with my argument. So, Errol says Ricochet should have been in the G1 this year. That'd have been cool. Okay, your turn.
All right, so although I would not be shocked if he went to AEW, let me preface it by saying that.
Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry. I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to do that.
Alex, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
I did forget to leave that out. That had nothing to do. My prediction, my take on that had nothing to do with any kind of predictions. So
right.
I don't know anything either way, if he's going or staying, or if he's signing a WWE contract or not. Last I heard, he had not. So,
so it's not that I couldn't see him going. It's more, I don't think he should. And here's why. My things with AEW. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a fan of wrestling. I like all the shows. They all bring something different. All that. My issue with AEW is that Tony Khan is always after the next big name and then does nothing with them. And so far, you have Jon Moxley. You've done some things with Brody Lee. I feel like Ricochet would end up getting lost in the mix. I think he would have a big, first couple of weeks of being in the company, and then I think he gets lost in the mix, just like a lot of the guys who have gone to AEW have done. Sean Spears has not been used correctly since he's gotten into AEW. What do you want to call him? Zack Ryder or whatever his Matt Cardona has not been really used at all. Even guys who weren't necessarily WWE. Colt Cabana has not really been used in a way that I thought was right. I don't really like the whole putting him with Dark Order. I thought that was kind of dumb. Matt Sydal, he slips off a post, and now he's on AEW Dark all the time. Brian Cage, you brought him in, you gave him one title shot, and now I feel like he's kind of been used incorrectly. Lance Archer, wasn't really, I don't want to say not used correctly. The storylines just didn't pan out the way that I think they thought they would. And so, there's just a lot to what AEW is doing that I feel like they have a roster. Use who you got. Kenny Omega's not been in the title picture really. Heyman Page hasn't been in the title picture really. Cody Rhodes has taken himself out of the title picture. You got a lot of talented dudes who are on your roster, and continuously adding the next big name that WWE drops or the next name that comes out, to me, is just a waste of the people that you already have. My thing with Ricochet being on WWE, the pros for him staying on WWE. Let's just look at some of the guys who are on WWE who have been champion that took a little bit of time. Kofi Kingston was in WWE for 10 years before he ever got his first WWE title reign, and it was a good title reign. They didn't just have him do a one-off win and then he loses the belt next month. They let him hold the belt for a good while. They let him have some good matches, and Kofi Kingston is one of their best wrestlers. He's a talented dude. Just never got an opportunity at the belt. Why? Most of his personas were not really believable in the main title picture. Didn't really get that build. Didn't get that right build up for that. So finally, when the storyline presented itself for him to get in that role, he got in there. He owned it. He became champion. I don't think Ricochet has had that moment yet to shine in a storyline where he could be believable beyond a mid-card picture. Now, it brings me to my next thing. Ricochet, let's look back. When did Ricochet lose his steam? Really lose his steam as being a top talent? When the crowds were gone.
I'd say it was before that.
Yeah, but that was some of the writing. So I'm talking about, when did Ricochet really lose people believing in him? It's when the crowds weren't really a thing anymore. He really got written off TV hardcore when there was no crowds. Why? Because Ricochet, for some reason, needs a pop. When his music hits, people cheer. Let's date back just a little bit to Ricochet's United States title run. He was over. he was the superhero. His gimmick was very very heavy baby face. Was over. People liked it. He was putting on good matches. He was believable. And then it got shot in the foot. Went downhill from there, and he couldn't recover. All they need to do is actually start to put him back in a role on Raw consistently, and you will see him get back to that mid-card and beyond picture. I just think, honestly, they've been holding off using him because they don't really have a place to put him where they feel like they're going to get a return off of him. His return comes with a crowd. The payoff they get from Ricochet comes with a crowd response. And because there is no crowd response right now, which that could be changing here soon, there are stories that WWE's getting ready to start traveling and stuff again and getting back out on the road.
There's also stories that they're staying in the Thunderdome,
right,
long term. So who knows?
We'll see what comes of that. But I honestly think it's a good sign that Ricochet won this past week. He's been on TV now the past few weeks in this Hurt Business storyline. I think it's a good sign. I think the Superstar Shakeup even though he stayed on Raw, it only gives a reboot and a restart to some storylines. And so now that there's been a reboot and some restarts, I think you might be able to see Ricochet start to get put into a prominent role. I just think putting him on AEW just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because AEW has so much talent that they're already not using, and the fact that AEW gives too many people too much creative control of their character, of their storylines, to the point that if everyone's creating something, who gets what say? Whose storyline gets used? How does that get used? So if Ricochet comes in and says, I want to be used as a top contender, or I want, leaving WWE for AEW, it would have to be for creative reasons. And if he goes there and he doesn't get the creative that he needs to feel accomplished, I mean, Matt Hardy went there for that, and he hasn't really been used either. I mean, granted, he smacked his head off the floor and all that stuff, but you haven't seen a whole lot with him other than a few highlighted matches like the Stadium Stampede and some of those things. But I just feel like he gets lost in the mix in AEW due to the fact that they haven't been using the talent that they have already. In WWE, he's established as a guy that they obviously want to keep. They drafted him pretty early in the draft, so it's obvious that they see his talent, that they see that they want to use him. I did read a report that said he wasn't going anywhere. His girlfriend, maybe even fiance, is Cassie Catanzaro, who's on NXT, and looks like they're starting to kind of build her and Caden for a tag run, women's tag team kind of thing there. So there's that possibility. I also read that Paul Heyman is huge on Ricochet and wanted to use Ricochet more when he was kind of running Raw, and didn't really get the opportunity to get Ricochet where he wanted him in the card to be used that way. I've also read rumors that here at the beginning of the year, you're going to see Ricochet do a huge heel turn, become King Ricochet, or that kind of gimmick that he's done before, and you're going to see him get pushed all the way to the main title picture. And if you could imagine a Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre match where Ricochet is the heel, that intrigues me a lot. So that is my take.
Fair enough.
Lies. Just kidding.
By the way, someone earlier said that Ricky says okay in the penalty box with you. I actually muted my microphone whenever you said that, so I did put myself in the penalty box. There was one particular thing I was going to respond to, and I don't recall what it was, but I didn't want to interrupt you, so give me a second. I'm going to try and read some of these comments while I'm attempting to recall. Andrew, I don't know if this is a dig or not, but he says it's all friends wrestling, and I think he would be used better than, say, a Miro because he's pals with the Bucks.
Yeah, I that's a good point, though. Because even Miro's gone there, and you put him with Kip Sabian. Like, I
don't understand that either. I mean, I get that they're both Twitch guys, but anyway. Jeremy says Matt Cardona was only signed for like a month or two per himself. Saw that story somewhere. Yeah, he was on a 5 appearance deal. I think that's what his deal was.
His appearances though were not good.
No,
that's
I agree.
My point is that you didn't even use him right when he was there.
Yeah, and I mean he was friends with Cody too. So I mean, who knows? Toby says AEW is signing too many talents. Oh, I just recalled what it was. Toby says AEW is signing too many talents to their roster, going to be overloaded like WWE. Here's what AEW needs to do. They're getting another hour of programming that is not AEW Dark. Like, it is going to be on a Turner station, so it might be on TNT. We might have another TBS wrestling show at some point in the future. Who knows? What AEW needs to do is, between Dynamite, the new program that they'll eventually have, and then AEW Dark, they need to stop having these random indie guys that is going to take the pinfall. But specifically on AEW Dark, they'll have it on Dynamite every so often. Like, if they're trying to get someone over, like they did it with Lance Archer a few times, but they need to stop it and use the talent that they have. So I slightly disagree that they have too many talents, because they do if they continue to use these indie guys. Now, I will give AEW props because they're giving indie talent an opportunity. They're paying them to come in. So, I'd like the opportunity that they're giving them in that regard, but they still need to use their assigned talent and build from that. I think if they use the 2 hours that they've got, well, technically 3 hours that they have if you count Dark, plus the additional hour that they're going to get, I think they'd have room for someone like Ricochet. But going above and beyond the roster that they currently have, I don't think, even with what will be 4 hours of programming, I don't think that they have too much more room to sign any more talent. And, we'll see. Mark says, finally made it, got off work early. Thanks for tuning in. Bonnie, good morning. Matthew says, Ricochet lost it soon after main roster debut. I don't want to see him go, but if he does, I think he would be a good fit for the TNA/X Division title. I don't think so.
Good fit, yes. But why would you take somebody like that and put him on Impact?
No, I agree.
AEW would be if he was to lead WWE, I would see him in AEW or New Japan. I don't really see him going to NWA. He doesn't really fit their mold, and I don't really see him in Impact because there's really no payoff there.
Agreed. I'm surprised the Good Brothers went to Impact. Now, granted, they can go elsewhere. They can go to New Japan. We'll probably see them there at some point.
Right.
But Kyle Wegner says, good morning from Kyle of Wisconsin. Good morning to Kyle of Wisconsin. Saki the Sock, hello. Errol says, indie enhancement talent. Exactly. And Ricky says, I'd love to see wrestling on TBS because wrestling and baseball made that station. Agreed. All right, guys, let's change gears a little bit.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
I do want to let you guys know that you can check out the Going Broadway podcast every Wednesday morning, live at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, on our Facebook page and generally on our YouTube channel. Looks like it's up and working now. It wasn't earlier for whatever reason, but it looks like we're good now. So again, that's live every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. We're live, but you can check out any of our shows. Going back to episode 1, all of our shows are archived on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. We're hoping to get Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts up and running again. So hopefully in the near future, you'll be able to download that to your devices. So if you can't watch us live, but maybe you're in your car, you can listen to us. I do want to plug our social media platforms, facebook.com/Going Broadway Podcast. Please like our Facebook page. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Both handles are at Going BRDWI Pod. Both of those, actually, just the Twitter one. Sorry, I was about ready to get ahead of myself. The YouTube link at the bottom of our page is not updated. It's actually youtube.com/Going Broadway Podcast. We are on Patreon as well, patreon.com/Going Broadway Podcast. As far as our social media platforms, please like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Doing each of those 4 will get you an entry into our 3-belt giveaway that we are going to be doing hopefully in the near future, but we need to get to 5,000 Facebook likes first, as well as 1,000 Twitter followers. So, That being said, we are also having an NWA TV title giveaway before the end of the year. So basically what that means is on any given show between today and the end of 2020, at some point we're going to be giving away a winner's choice of a red or black strap NWA television belt. All you guys got to do is tune in and watch. That's all you got to do for the time being. So on the day that we're giving away the belt, I'll let you know as soon as we kick off that particular show. And then basically you'll have to be watching throughout. Am I boring you?
No.
At any given point throughout the show, we might give it away. So that's our way of saying thank you to you guys that continue to check us out, that watch us every week, that watch us from start to finish every week. If you want to be entered to win the NWA television title, you're going to have to check us out live, and you're going to have to watch our shows from start to finish. So stay tuned. That will happen before the end of the year, and we'll keep you updated. And who knows, guys? You never know when we're going to give something away, period. Whether it's a TV title, whether it's we've given away Funko Pops. We've given away. We actually gave away a Pro Wrestling Tees shirt last week. We've actually given away a few Pro Wrestling Tees shirts before. We've given away belts before. So we've given away some of our Going Broadway podcast T-shirts, and I'll bring those up real quick. There it goes. These are our Alex Cole Bebe T-shirts and hoodies. T-shirts are $25 shipped plus applicable taxes. Hoodies are $50 shipped plus applicable taxes. If you're interested in those, please let us know, and we'll get you hooked up with one of those as quickly as humanly possible. So, Joey says yes. I'm assuming that's in reference to the TV title announcement. Also, stay up to date on our social media platforms, because we do frequently post updates and things on those platforms as well. Mark says, love me some NWA television title now. And Ricky says buffering. I was trying to look over here to see if we're not dropping frames or anything.
I think he was joking about you trying to get your shirt graphic up.
Oh, probably. Ricky says, I'm okay with either NWA TV title belt. Well, the winner will get their choice, because we will have a black strap and a red strap. And so the winner will get their pick of whichever one they would like. But again, you got to check us out every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Facebook page or YouTube channel, doesn't matter which, but you'll have to stick with us each show from start to finish to see how you can possibly win. So let's transition to our wrestler of the week. So I'll let you go first. Who you got?
This one, I narrowed it down to two people, and it was really hard because I felt like both of them put on a good match this past week. And again, remember, because of where our show sits, I usually don't include this past week's Raw in my decision. I usually go all the way back to last week. So last week's Friday Night SmackDown, last week's NXT, AEW, Impact. I consider all of them. And I'm going to give you the two I narrowed it down to. I narrowed it down to Big E and Cody Rhodes.
Okay.
And after I went back and rewatched the matches, after rewatching the matches, I just couldn't deny it. I went with Cody Rhodes.
Yep, I did too.
I mean, the only thing with the Big E match for me is that it was a little predictable as far as what they were going to do, especially when they got out to the garage. I knew both of them were going to go through cars and windshields and stuff, playing off the storyline. The Cody Rhodes match kept me on the edge of my seat, and honestly, the fact that they saved the show, in my opinion, really played a huge role into that decision. So
yeah, mine was Cody Rhodes as well. I mean, anytime you've got someone that wins a title on a weekly a weekly program. I mean, they're automatically in the discussion. Now, unless the match was a dud. I mean,
Right.
we do have dud title matches, unfortunately. But the fact that he won the TNT title, the fact that the match was good, like you said, because it practically saved the show, I think it was more of a no-brainer for me. I can see where you're coming from with Big E. I think I'd put him second as well, but I think he's more of a distant second for me than he might be for you. Andrew says, have you guys been watching the G1 way less interesting than last year? I have not been. I have heard that depending on the particular day, most days have been rather lackluster, but there have been a couple of times where a particular day's matches were really, really, really good. So no, I have not. As we discuss I'll tell you what, let's just go right to fan mail. So fan mail is kind of what we've renamed. What were we calling it? Fan favorites. That's what we were.
Favorites.
So we had been calling it fan favorites, but I just renamed it fan mail. So basically, I already took a question from Andrew. So over the next few minutes, send us your questions, guys. We'll answer anything that you might have to ask, whether it's about the current product. Ask us anything. The only thing that we ask of you whenever you ask us something is just please keep all questions and comments in general, keep it free of any vulgar language, profanity. Let's just keep it clean. While you guys are giving us questions, we'll just kind of preview tonight's action, if you will. So for AEW, we've got all championships are on the line. It's their anniversary show. We've got Lance Archer against Jon Moxley for the AEW title. We've got, I mentioned this earlier, we've got Cody against Orange Cassidy for the TNT title. We've got FTR against Best Friends for the tag titles. We've got Hikaru Shida against Big Swole for the AEW Women's title. And have they announced anything else?
Miro and Kip Sabian are in action.
That's right. Yeah. But some other things to just kind of keep in the back of your mind. We've still got that Kenny Omega and Adam Page stuff going. They're probably going to bring up the number one contenders tournament for the AEW title.
And announce more names for that, right? Because I think there's still
two more names I think they need to announce. So, I'm so intrigued how they're going to handle this Jericho MJF weird thing that they've got going on. Because
I'm sure we'll see some of that tonight.
Yeah. So, do you think we'll have any title changes tonight?
I find it hard to believe that we wouldn't have at least one. Why would you have an anniversary show, put every title on the line, and not have one?
So which do you think it would be then? I've got my prediction because I agree with you. I think it's going to be one, and I'll give you my prediction and I'll tell you why. But you can go ahead.
See, I'm looking at it. I don't think Cody loses the belt to Orange. I don't think FTR loses to Best Friends. I'm going to say Archer beats Jon Moxley.
I agree. Here's my logic behind that. I think Archer, even if it's just a short title run, I think Archer wins the AEW title tonight because Jon Moxley at some point has to drop that IWGP US title. Kenta is currently the number one contender for it. But if Jon Moxley is going to drop it, number one, it can't be in the United States. That's just part of his AEW contract. So that means he's going to have to go over to Japan at some point to do that. Prior to going to Japan, he has to quarantine for 2 weeks. So my guess is they're going to put the belt on Archer, even if it's just for shock factor, even if it's just for as a temporary thing. So Moxley can go take care of that business, so to speak. And then I see him dropping the IWGP United States title to Kenta in the near future. I don't know what New Japan has coming up as far as big events, but they might just have him drop it at like a smaller house show or whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what their schedule looks like. In fact, I guess I can just pull it up real quick and see if I can get an answer to that.
I would say this, though. I almost would have saved the Cody versus Brody match for tonight, because the only problem I have with the title changing tonight is that would be 2 weeks in a row that a title changes on TV. And not that I have a problem with that. It's just unheard of. It's not something that usually happens. So that would be the only thing that would deter me from saying that any title changes tonight. But again, when you put every title on the line and you don't want to be like WWE and do a Clash of Champions and nobody, or a Night of Champions and nobody loses a belt, I feel like you almost have to. I just don't see Swole beating Shida. I don't see Cody losing the belt when he just won it. And FTR are best friends. I'm on the fence on that one. I could see best friends winning it. I think they deserve it.
That would be my close second pick.
Just the way that they've been building FTR, I just don't see it, especially if they're building towards the Young Bucks FTR match. Now if Young Bucks was in this match, then I would say Young Bucks. I would say that the FTR is losing the belts. But because of that, I think it has to be Archer. So I don't.
If there's a title change,
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying if there's a title change. That's my bold prediction for tonight. I think Archer is going to win the title, not because we're having to pick. Well, if there is going to be a title change, which one do you think it'll be? I think that is going to happen. And looking at New Japan's schedule, my opinion is further solidified because they have their Power Struggle pay-per-view on Saturday, November 7th. So that is about 3.5 weeks from today. So let's say Moxley loses the belt tonight. He starts quarantining. 2 weeks from today, actually 2 weeks from tomorrow, would be October 29th. So that gives him a week to go to Japan, kind of build it with they've got a Road to Power Struggle series from October 23rd until November 5th. So that gives them a week to kind of build that up with, on their house show schedule, tour, whatever. Now, I think someone said, Andrew says, if Mox loses the U.S. title, it'll be at Wrestle Kingdom. I don't think they will let him hold on to that belt for that long. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom is not going to be until January. Also, given the circumstances with the pandemic, if you're looking, if you're people in Japan and you're seeing how we as the United States have handled the pandemic compared to Japan, we've not handled it very well. So if you're people in Japan, you're thinking, okay, we don't know if it's going to get worse in America. So we want him, being Moxley, we want him to get over here, drop the title, just so we have it. So as an organization, we as New Japan have that championship. So that's just kind of how I look at it. Might be an unpopular opinion, but Jamie says that means Mox will have 2 losses in a row, and how will he ever bounce back? Being sarcastic. Exactly. But I think he would bounce back, and once he gets back to AEW, if they wanted to put the world title back on him, then just
or don't
do it. Or don't. I agree.
His title run in AEW has not been very good.
It's not been.
It's been middle of the pack at best of title runs as far as a main title picture goes. I don't think Lance Archer is the guy either, but it at least allows for new storylines. We might be able to see a Lance Archer versus Brian Cage. They've teased that. Mm-hmm. So there at least allows for some other good matches to come around, and allows us to then maybe get to where we could have Kenny Omega win it or Adam Page win it against a Lance Archer, and put it on somebody who I feel like would have a better title run.
I agree. I'll tell you what. Have they announced anything for NXT tonight?
So I looked it up. I was trying to see if they had announced any matches. They literally just say, what do Ember Moon, Tony Storm, and Dexter Lumis have in common? Find out on NXT tonight. So it kind of is hinting at maybe Ember versus Tony for a number 1 contender match for EO, or maybe even leading to a triple threat match between EO, Tony Storm, Ember Moon. Either way, that'll be a great match for a pay-per-view.
They have actually announced a few things.
What's the matches?
This was just updated. So we've got an NXT North American title match with Damian Priest defending against Dexter Lumis.
Yep. So that's where Dexter Lumis comes in. I like that.
We also have a number one contenders match for the NXT tag titles. So Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish will take on Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. Winners will take on Breezango for the NXT
Oh, well, that's going to be Bobby
tag
Fish
titles.
and Roderick Strong.
Are you sure?
I'm sorry.
I wouldn't like it if it was Lorcan and Burch. Don't get me wrong, because I just feel like that furthers the lacklusterness of the NXT
This
tag
is to
title
help
picture.
build their show back up. Let's go UE.
I hope so. That looks like that's really been it. So
Yep. All I saw last night when I looked it up was just them promoting Ember Moon, Tony Storm, and Dexter Lumis. Which, interesting enough, I know they're big on Damian Priest, but maybe they need Damian Priest in the main title picture right now, and we might see Dexter Lumis win the North American title tonight.
maybe. I don't know.
Here's the thing: you're going up against AEW. I know people say ratings don't matter, but to them it does. You're going up against AEW's anniversary show. Some titles might change. You need something major to happen. Dexter Lumis winning the North American title, beating Damian Priest, could be a major.
But that doesn't really influence this week's ratings. That would influence next week. So you almost would have had to had the title change. I see what you're saying, because anytime you have a title match, it gives intrigue to anytime we're watching wrestling. That's one of the biggest things, is having any kind of a title change. That's just something as wrestling fans we like to see usually. I see what you're getting at, but I'm just kind of like,
we'll see. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying now, putting the pieces together, there was no build up to this match. There wasn't like a Dexter Lumis, Damian Priest storyline going.
right.
So to just announce the match and say it's happening on the same night as an AEW anniversary show, where there's 4 title matches that could potentially change hands, or at least be great matches. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You might see it happen.
Let's round out the show. I'm going to read some of you guys' comments and questions as well. So Errol says Kenta needs that title in Japan. Japan is at 30% capacity. Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I forgot about. Japan has crowds. So Ricky makes a bold prediction. I say the AEW Championship and the tag titles will change hands. Jamie agrees with you. And he also says he thought the Undisputed Era would have been drafted. Yeah, I agree with whoever said it earlier. I think WWE missed an opportunity by not having NXT as part of the draft. So let's answer a couple questions before we end the show for today. Saki the Sock, what's new with everything?
I'm going to take that question.
Go for it.
Just so I can answer or give you something that I had in my notes. Because we didn't get to this topic today, really, because we spent a lot of time talking about the draft. But we usually do a topic called Flip the Script. And this is just stuck on my mind. I got to get it off my chest.
Is this going to answer Saki the Sock's question about what's new with everything?
Yeah, new with everything in wrestling.
Okay.
Because that's what our show's about.
Fair enough.
First off, the Mysterio Rollins storyline should have ended with the draft. Just going to make that a sentence. They could have moved Rollins to SmackDown, kept Ray and Dominic on Raw, and continued a storyline with Murphy, with his sister, all that stuff. Could have ended it. Anyone but Lana is what I wrote down in my notes. Anyone but Lana. You have put her through tables. You have had her lose and taken every pinfall. I don't care if it was storyline or scripted. Anyone but Lana to go against Asuka would have been better. And last but not least, a bigger shakeup in the draft. I would have done all those things differently. There were so many things that they could have done different. They pretty much just switched people to the other brand to continue their storylines. And that made me so mad. There are a few good highlights in it. Hopefully some of the returning people shake it up even more. But I had to get that off my chest. That's what's new with me, Saki. I'm upset because there's a lot of stuff going on in the wrestling world. I thought AEW was atrocious last week other than the dog collar match. And I am just really frustrated.
I'm just cracking up because I thought you were going to tell everybody about how you bought a house.
I mean, I haven't closed on it yet, but those things. I'll ask me that in a couple weeks, and I'll answer about my life.
I'm just laughing because I'm expecting something
I can't even think about those things because I'm so upset.
I'll answer this question in the next question. So he said, Saki says, what's new with everything? And then Mark also asks, how's that GBP title coming along? Hopefully, it'll be here next week and on the show next week.
And defended next. I'm just kidding.
No. Then I'll make one appearance on our podcast, and then it's going to go back into my office and stay there safe and sound indefinitely. But yeah,
Wow, what a champion. Never defends it.
wasn't meant to be defended. But no, I've been in contact with so Wildcat Belts. I've mentioned this previously. Wildcat Belts is who is the maker for some of WWE and Ring of Honor's belts. They're making a custom Going Broadway podcast championship belt. It's been in the works for about 2 months, 2.5 months. And I talked with him last week, and he said it should arrive. It should be finished and arrive to me by a week from yesterday. So if that's the case, it'll be on next week's podcast for all to see, but one time only. Let's see. We'll take one or two more, and then we're gonna have to wrap this up. DA61934, which I won't reveal his name, but this is he was the winner of our Jericho T-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees last week. He says, what will happen with Otis and the Money in the Bank contract? I feel like he will cash in and lose. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the ultimate outcome.
So, and this is interesting because WWE, you just never know what they're going to do because he could get traded at any point in time. Notice who's all on Raw right now. Mandy Rose, Miz and Morrison, Tucker. All of them are on Raw and Otis is on SmackDown. Who is Otis feuding with? Right now, who is he feuding with?
Nobody now.
The Miz. The Miz is who he's feuding with. They did a continuance on the trial for his briefcase.
But they're on separate brands now.
Right. So understand my point is that I think the storyline is going to turn to where Otis is going to end up winning a court case, and the contingency in one of his court case battles is going to be him ending up getting traded to Raw. He will have a match with Morrison where the contingency is if he wins, he goes to Raw. If he loses, he gives Miz the briefcase.
Because WWE.
Yes.
And that's it.
I don't think he wins no matter what, though. I don't think he cashes in and wins.
I agree. Jamie says, Cole says, you know what grinds my gears?
Very true. Yeah, I this past week of wrestling was probably one of the most frustrating weeks of wrestling across the board. Across the board, not in one promotion. I even watched Impact, was very upset with Impact. I thought Impact was poor. I just was not happy at all last week.
Mark says Otis will cash in for the 24/7 title, probably something stupid like that. Yeah.
I don't see that. I could see a tag run. I could even see a mid-card run.
But a tag run with who? Because they're on different brands now.
Yeah, but again, WWE, he could fight to get Tucker moved back to SmackDown.
That's true.
You just never know. Like, do I see Tucker doing anything prominent on a Raw without Otis? No. So that's why I'm thinking it's going to end up Otis coming to Raw.
It's like WWE over the last few years have just done stuff that's stupid, doesn't make sense, or both. And it's like their logic is, well, if we do this long enough, then fans will just be like, okay, well, they're WWE, they can do whatever they want, and so we are going to do whatever we want, and we'll do it long enough to, so that fans will just be so numb and used to it that it won't matter anymore.
Thomas Russell says they need to turn Otis heel. As much as I would agree with that to make him believable to win with a Money in the Bank briefcase, they will not do that because he's too over with the comedy gimmick that he has. Oh, yeah! Turkey!
One last question, and mine is going to be a quick answer. Michael Hunter says, have you heard about Mox's movie? I have not.
Yes, he's in it, and Christian's in it too. It's like a boxing movie or a fighting movie, and I think Moxley's the main character in it, I think. It was actually started, pretty sure, when he was in WWE. I think he started filming it, if I'm not mistaken, back when he was in WWE, or at least he had signed to do it back when he was in WWE.
Yeah, I had not heard that. So
Yeah, it looks good.
thanks for joining us today, guys. We're going to wrap things up. Like I mentioned earlier, we will be live next Wednesday and every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Any final thoughts?
Guys, thanks for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Make sure you go get your Alex Cole Bebe t-shirts and hoodies, because it is that time of year where you're going to want an awesome hoodie to rock. And make sure you join us next week, because I might bring a steel chair, hit Alex over the head, and pin him for the Going Broadway podcast title.
But yeah, seriously, guys, it is hoodie season. I mean, here in the St. Louis area, it is going to be cold tomorrow. I think it's like a high temperature of 80 today, and then it's going to be down to like 57 tomorrow. Just something crazy like that. So that's going to about do it for us. So for Cole, for Alex, myself, thank you again so much, you guys, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
And so, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang!
This podcast was a presentation of LightUpMedia.fm.